Tonight, it is a goodbye for the inaugural commissioners at the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, 6 years of service, and the commission reports a marginal reduction in wage bill. According to SRC, government expenditure on remuneration rose to 627 billion shillings in the 2016-2017 financial year. The same is expected to increase to about 650 billion by the end of the 2017-2018 financial year. On the program tonight, we track the journey of the Commission through the 6 years and ask what next in matters public service wages. That is a conversation that we are having tonight.
Your Excellency, when the first commissioners were appointed and sworn into office in January 2012, we had to start from scratch. We found ourselves having to literally clear the bushes. I can now look back and say the bushes were the foreboding that it required us to have steely hearts and strong determination. A new government was going to be elected into office in March 2013, and the new salary structure had to be in place with its policy guidelines. The public service, on the other hand, immediately placed high expectation on this new body of SRC. And this was expected to instantly, in almost a magic act, bring equity and fairness in remuneration.
On July 11, 2017, members of the National Assembly and senators lost 5 allowances, including a 5 million car grant following a pay review by Salaries and Remuneration Commission. The SRC reduced MPs' basic salary by at least 455,000 per month. The Commission also abolished MPs' special parliamentary allowance, reimbursable mileage allowance, sitting allowance for plenary sessions, and special responsibility allowances. The new salary cuts for top officials was intended to save taxpayers about 9 billion shillings annually. The Sarah Serem-led team has had 6 years of triumph and trouble, almost in equal measure. Especially so when they reviewed the pay packs of members of parliament downwards in July this year, as we have indicated before. A situation some of the parliamentarians, like Homa Bay Women Representative Gladys Wanga, viewed as plot to demean MPs and reduce the honourable members to, quote, beggars.
There is absolutely no reason why both the Senate and the National Assembly members should earn a salary and at the same time draw sitting allowance for the plenary sessions. Otherwise, there will be many sitting and standing and walking allowances. Our critical consideration was on the issue of claims, because it's more difficult to determine when an individual presents receipts for claims or something relating to that for accountability. So if you notice, what we have done is to remove anything called claims and simply put in mileage that is payable through payroll on a monthly basis. But we are also encouraging, hopefully, that the productivity will go up, the revenues generated will go high. If we manage the wage bill, what is the effect of that? It means there will be more funds for purpose of development.
When you say that a member of parliament cannot get a grant to obtain a vehicle or be provided with a vehicle by the Parliamentary Service Commission to be able to perform their duties, then we are being truly unfair. And even we know that even DCs, permanent secretaries, cabinet secretaries, county executives, county chief officers, county public service boards are provided with vehicles to perform their duties. When you come up here and say that there is no car grant for a member of parliament, are we really being fair? Are we expecting members of parliament to perform their duties in the way they should? When you say that there is a mission to demean the legislative arm of government. There is a mission to demean members of parliament and reduce them to beggars, and perhaps, like in the 90s, expect them to go to the executive every Friday begging for handouts to be able to go back to their constituencies.
Yeah, that caused quite an uproar. So tonight we speak to some of the representatives of public servants. And we're joined by Dr. Omar Oluga, who is the Secretary General and the Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union. His counterpart in the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Teachers, Akelo Misori, is also with us. Mr. Solomon Jenga, a governance expert, will also help us appreciate some insights from a governance perspective. Welcome to the program. Gentlemen, thank you so much for creating time for us this evening. But before we can engage our studio guests, our lead reporter for this particular story, Duncan Haimba, has just had a word with outgoing chairperson of the SRC, Sarah Serem. Let's listen in just a little bit to what she had to say.
Well, it has been a busy day at the Salaries Remuneration Commission. Of course, the curtains are coming down. The commissioners of the team is winding up their tour of duty. Remember that this was or has been the inaugural commission that came into effect courtesy of the 2011 Act. But after 6 years, because each commission has to serve a 6-year non-renewable term, today the chair leading the team, they are actually working round the clock as they wind up. They try to tie up their loose ends before they exit. It's so past 7 o'clock and they are still in the office. We want just to pick up her mind to know exactly where do we stand. But before that, maybe we'll start, Madam Chair, by asking you, you said that we do expect the wage bill to even go higher. Maybe why that? And we thought maybe the team has been working around the clock to work on modalities on how to bring down the skyrocketing wage bill.
Yeah. I can only say it could have been worse. We are glad that it is where it is currently, but you will all appreciate that wage bill is a contribution of two variables. One is the values, which SRC was dealing with within our mandate. But the other aspect is the numbers. And so we have no control over the numbers, yet we had control over the values. So the reality on the ground is the freezing on wage bill in terms of pay has not been in the same approach when it comes to numbers. Counties have continued to employ. I want to believe even the new governors that have come in now would probably have taken in a few other numbers. And that is the greatest concern.
So what does that mean? If there are values that are being put in place, but as you've said, the ever-increasing numbers, are we making any progress then?
We certainly are. If we did not come in with the kind of stability, the strategies that we have currently taken, the Kenyan situation would have been different today. If you reflect on Kenya without SRC, and we did that for a moment, just to check what would have been the impact of the demand that the MPs wanted, what the governors wanted, what the county government wanted, what the assembly wanted, what the teachers wanted, what the doctors wanted. If we didn't have a body that was rationalizing that, the situation would definitely have been worse than it is today. So I want to believe that there will be strategies, and based on what the Deputy President stated today, that there will be a legislative document that will bring in the control measure in terms of looking at percentage of wage bill to the revenue, which translates to every employing agency that they need to comply with that ratio. And if that is put into law, then obviously every employing agency will have to operate within that. compliance.
This was the inaugural commission, and after 6 years, it's time to take a bow. Or do you say, in terms of rating the achievement, what success rate would you give your team, given that, of course, the challenges that have been your way, but clearly you are the first body in the office or the first team that came into place? If you are to rate yourself, how do you say your team has performed?
Under the circumstances and given the challenges that we went through, I would put at 85%. Of course, we didn't achieve 100%. We focused more on the issues of wage bill, salary reviews. We undertook a massive exercise, talk of the job evaluation exercise. That took a toll on our operations because it demanded resources, both in terms of financial and the human resource. So it meant that we concentrated mainly on this undertaking. But there is the aspect of productivity and performance, which is also very critical in the address of wage bill sustainability, because if we were to enhance productivity, because productivity is very low in this country, we're demanding higher wages, but when it comes to the contribution of each of those resources in enhancing productivity, is still very low. So it's our hope and indeed our focus that the next team coming in will be focusing more on the aspect of productivity. We also have the pension. We had presentations from pensioners who were saying we are earning meager salaries, whereas you're focusing on those who are active in service now. We all know that we made a contribution. Part of the contribution is building what you're enjoying now. And surely they had a case. It would have been nice to review their pension. We made a contribution. We made our recommendation. It is within the Ministry of Treasury.
Madam Chair, you've given yourself or your team an approval rating of about 85%, of course, saying that you did not maybe hit the maximum, which would have been 100. But of course, there are those that would say maybe the never-ending industrial strikes. At the center of it has been SRC. Cannot allow this, cannot do that. You've found yourself mostly on that confrontation, come negotiating table many times. And there are those that would say maybe 85% maybe could be too high, and there are those who might think that maybe the team did not achieve satisfactorily, as you'd want to say, at 85%.
I would justify that. We came in, we were the first commission, we needed to set up the framework. We are on a change management process, and there was resistance. Why was there resistance? Why did we have strikes? It wasn't because SRC was not working. It was because people did not believe in what SRC was doing. So that in itself was expected, because if you're making a demand that is unsustainable, and we speak that voice, and they do not want to listen, and they would rather be in the streets, we could not have stopped that. But that did not stop us from doing what we did. Part of the comment that came out in today's celebration was, we thank you for being firm. Because if you weren't firm, imagine a situation where 300% was being paid to the teachers. That is simply but one sector of the public sector. We have over 700,000 employees. So the stability of looking at the totality of the public sector was a necessity. That did not go without challenges. The challenges were Parliament has been setting their own salaries. They, of course, did not take this lightly. So if they went on strike like what the initial county government MCS going on strike because SRC denied them a certain wage pay. It's not because SRC didn't work. It's because it was managing the resistance that was coming in this transformation.
You've said that despite the team putting in place the framework and whatever, but the numbers that continue to soar, and you've said even with the current now second phase of the county governments, the numbers could still increase, therefore increasing the same wage bill. The government has also tried to put in place some austerity measures, but the wage bill is still ballooning. So where is the challenge, or what exactly needs to be done? Because it would appear like perhaps we're engaging in an exercise in futility.
We just have to be bold. We need to make numbers optimum. We need to enhance the efficiency levels. We need to automate. what I realized was happening at the county is if Kayemba is not able to work, you bring in another person, you don't release Kayemba. You notice that courts have also contributed to this. Nairobi County, the other day, wanted to release some staff. The counties wanted to release staff because there was over-establishment. But courts, again, ruled against that. So it has to be that there is an all-round effort towards managing the sustainability of our resources. And that does not focus on one entity. SRC was running almost alone. It's necessary that there is a joint effort between all parties, all employing agencies, all concerned parties, all leadership of this nation. And I hope there will be a conversation soon to address that challenge.
You've had hard time with not members of parliament alone, unions, the issues of people reneging on CBAs that had been actually negotiated earlier and all that. Which of the many challenges that you've faced, or the teams, would you say maybe gave your team the most difficult time, despite the fact that perhaps whatever you are working on, you are just following the law or what you are mandated to do as a commission?
Yeah. They're sticking out, obviously, are the parliamentarians. But I can't also leave out the health sector. It's a case that we have dealt with. It has its own perennial problems. I think there's the aspect of leadership, the aspect of expectations, and it's like a free-for-all, you know. So for me, yes, exercise your right. But if my right is threatening your life, I would want to sit back and wonder whether I want that Kenyan to die because I want an increase in salary. So these are some of the things that we need to address and even perhaps relook back at the value system within our country. I know, I have a responsibility as your brother, as your sister within this nation to bring out my resources to manage others and ensure that we benefit each other. But we've reached a point, and I think this was what was worrying me most, that we have reached that level of selfishness to the extent that it does not matter the impact of my decision. So I'm hoping that as we move forward, and I had a sweet engagement, I must say sweet engagement, with some of the union members, that we respected your stand. As much as, yes, we were making the demands, we respected your stand, because at the end of the day, it's for the benefit of this nation. So I am looking at a situation where unions will be brought as partners. They're employing partners. It's in the interest of everybody, including the union, that we have a sustainable wage bill. Because what's the point of drawing all resources today and we are unable to pay the following day? It's reached a point where even counties were unable to pay. They went for months without salaries, and that was another cause of, discomfort, because people would again go to the streets because you haven't been paid. But what did that mean? You engage, you reach a point where that employer is not able to pay. Are we making sense? I would say absolutely not.
So in 2011, SRC Act comes into place. In 2012, you are picked as the chair of the inaugural commission. Did the kind of tenure you've had, of course, Tommy, did you expect that when you took up the job? Is that what you expected?
I think I'm glad I was innocent. I was extremely ignorant of what to expect. I just saw a statement to set and to review and to advise. It was as simple as that. So coming in, and the first hit was Parliament. I think that was like baptism by fire. But you know something? It strengthened me and the commission as well, because we realized with this, you know, when you have a certain sicknesses, the body comes up to defend yourself. So that's exactly what happened to us. We came in to defend ourselves. The systems changed. Believe me, this was not the necessary you knew before the 6 years. I was just this casual person that take life light. But in the 6 years, I remember somebody saying, "You mean she can smile?" Because perhaps my approach was like, I became extremely serious. But I realized you have to stand up to fight. You have to stand up to defend. And the driving force was, we have 40 million Kenyans. We're talking about a small percentage of people who want to draw the totality of the revenue of this nation. If we didn't do anything, we were already at the margin of over 50% of the revenue of Kenya going to the under 2%. So mine was fighting to ensure that we come to acceptable levels, and by the end of it all, hopefully, that we will have more resources to go to the rest of the Kenyans.
As we draw closer to the end of this interview, because of time constraints, what would you highlight as your greatest moments, or your highs and the lows in the 6-year tenure?
I think one of my high is setting the salary for the president all the way to the lowest within the state offices, and that being accepted, that SRC has come up with a salary structure, and it's what is being drawn today, that nobody can change that. I think that, to me, was one of the greatest achievements that I can say is very high for me. And looking at that team where I'm like being the chair, it had to be possible through the leadership. It meant bringing the commissioners together, bringing a secretariat team together. It needed leadership. And I must say, for 6 years, I offered that leadership. So to me, that is a high. The lowest is the strikes. It pained me to see people dying. And many times we were seated here, and the nurses and the clinical officers were singing out there. We go out, and they have thrown all sorts of dirt around us. The bottles, they would sing, and the song was like, "We want Mrs. Rem here." For me, it was low, because I said these are the resources that ought to be deployed to serve Kenyans. Whereas we were having people crying and carrying whatever figs and leaves, Kenyans were in hospitals dying. So that was not a very good experience, and I'm hoping we will not get to that point again.
So as you gracefully exit the stage, what next? What are you up to? Are you going into retirement? What will you be doing?
I'm a grandmother. In that last 6 years, I must say I've changed also, because I was a mother. I am now a grandmother. I want to enjoy life with my grandchildren. Yes. Yeah, and spend more time with my family. And probably travel a little around the world and have fun. I want to have fun.
Should another opportunity come for you to serve in public service, would you be stepping forward?
I'm available.
All right.
I'm available.
Well, thank you. We'll wish you all the best.
You have a job in KTN? Let me know.
Well, we'll ask our HR called Mr. Siwatom, and Linda will convey that message. If there's a job, we'll call you for.
Tell you something about Siwatom. He was my own officer. His office was somewhere around here. So tell him I'm available.
Well, we'll pass the message he's watching. So, Linda, there we have it. Of course, the outgoing inaugural chair of SRC giving us a clear picture, and perhaps telling us some of the moments that we never perhaps had got an opportunity. And I think what she has said, when she walked into it, she never anticipated what came her way. And she says, I think she has been hardened, and of course citing out or calling out people who've given her sleepless night. Your guess is as good as mine. Parliamentarians top the list, the unions more so, health sector, but that is where we'll have to leave it for now. I think from the SRC office, over to you, Linda, in studio.
Yeah, we clearly have a message for Mr. Siwatom. We'll pass it over to him tomorrow. Duncan Haimba, speaking to Sarah Serem, thank you so much, Duncan, for that insightful interview. At least we get to understand the experiences that her and her team have gone through in the last 6 years. So we need to take a break, but when we come back, we'll now put this into perspective for you. We'll be speaking to Dr. Omo Oluga, who is the Secretary General and Chief Executive Officer of the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union. We'll also be speaking to Akelo Misori from the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Teachers, and Dr. Solomon Jenga, who's a governance expert as well. So let's take that break now. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.